All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Thank you. Oh, my gosh. Thank you. I'm please remain standing. Please remain standing. Thank you. I am excited about a Friday. I know. I can't believe it either. It's been a fire hose of magic all out of this new administration coming in with a new dream for America. The first thing you got to do, I guess, to get your dream is to take everything apart. You know, you got to cancel things and fire people and just eliminate. You got to just bulldoze government, and then you can start your own. That's really how it works. So it's
what?
I'm telling you, it's. I'll put some specifics on all of this stuff.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
We could, but it will not work. Kim is here, which is a magical thing in itself. We were talking about Kim on Facebook, and we want to get our Facebook shares out there. We like to share the show in Facebook. There are a lot of people who are on Facebook. And there is a fan discussion page on Facebook. It's called the Mark Thompson Show Facebook page. And I guess let's get the word out. Rock that. 24 hours a day, man. Yeah, you know, you like get up in the middle of the night, you've heard something on the show, you're angry or you're encouraged or you're particularly, what's the word I'm looking for, Kim? You're particularly...
agitated?
No, motivated was the word I was looking for. If you're particularly motivated, you could, but agitated, I'll give it to you. Yes, you're right. I mean, it would work also. If you're motivated or agitated, or any other word ending in ED, you can go to the Mark Thompson Show fan discussion page.
Yeah,
very. I have to check it out.
There's all kinds of video posted and things, but there's also
a
Mark Thompson Show Facebook page. So if you want to join that as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And because we're up on the Times, we have
what happens on? We have Blue Sky. Yeah, we are on Blue Sky, so you can help spread the word on Blue Sky. Increasingly, I'm going to try to kind of push the show that way, meaning posts about what's going on, etc. It's at the MTS for Mark Thompson Show at the word the MTS dot bsky dot social. So it's at the MTS .bsky.social.
There you go.
So I mentioned it for everybody who might be listening and who wants to check out. So it's right now I'm not putting a ton of content up there, but that will change. We'll try to get to that in the days and months ahead. There's certainly a lot to get to and a lot of content to provide. So we will do that. We're waiting on a couple of things, meaning as the state of California is waiting on the arrival of the new president, Trump, who has kind of declared a sort of war on California and the blue states and the Democrats. I mean, he's not, you got to say this about Trump. He's right up front with his hate. You know, he's not, there's no subterfuge, no hinting around. He's right up front in your face with it, most everything he does is right up front in your face. And so for those who, respect science and respect the hard work that is done, lifting others up who may not have as great a shot as some in the culture, those who want to kind of keep the pay to play where big corporations, pay off politicians for things, those who want to keep that all away from government, he's not your man. Trump is a pay to play guy, pony up the dough and I'll do what you want. And so with his energy policies and all the rest, he's a guy who's playing right into the hands of the biggest corporations in America. It's interesting, even just talking about the negotiations on Medicare costs when it comes to pharmaceutical drugs. He's rolled that back, hasn't he, Kim? There was essentially a plan to phase in what would be negotiating prescription drug prices for Medicare recipients, and Trump is actually rolling that back, which is an odd thing because he's supposed to be this, he did rise to power with the populism that brought him to the White House and through the world of, sorry, go ahead.
I thought he was bringing prices down, Mark. What do you mean?
Yeah,
He's,
well,
he's rolling back a price decrease? Oh, I
well,
know why. It's because President Biden negotiated that. And anything good that President Biden did, we have to stamp it out so we can put our own name on it. Isn't that
yeah.
right?
Well,
Oh,
there is something like that. I mean,
There's never been anything like this.
yeah, well, it does seem to have elements of that. So
The Mark Thompson Show.
great to have everybody here, though. It is Friday, and it's not all Trump. Don't worry, those of you who are just drifting through. I mean, you got to give us the first week. The guy hits he hits the White House with a dude standing there with a stack of those leather-bound executive orders, and he's signing like it was Comic-Con. He's like, yeah, okay, there it is. Yeah, best wishes, Donald Trump. Yeah, best wishes, Donald Trump. Best wishes, Donald Trump. And you got to give us an opportunity to unpack some of that. Although there is an aspect to this that is very Steve Bannon-y, and here's what I mean by that. Bannon said the key and our key strategy is to flood the zone. The media cannot keep up with all of the stuff we're going to be doing and announcing. And so it's sort of like, oh my God, we're trying to manage all of this from a media standpoint. It's impossible. Flood the zone. He used those words. And that's certainly what's happened this first week. So you will certainly understand that we are focusing on a lot of things going on because there are a lot of things going on. So before I start, is there anything, any old business that I have to take care of? I ask you, Albert, who is also on the scene today. Albert he's a valued part of this franchise.
Albert, thank you.
He also will be sharing his predictions for the upcoming contest this weekend. He's the commissioner of sports on this show. And there is the AFC Championship and NFC Championship games on Sunday. They're both playing on Sunday. Would you like to wait for Michael Shure to compare notes, or what would you like to do?
We briefly discussed it when he was guest hosting on Wednesday, but yes, we could just save it for his 48 seconds. I could join in on his 48 seconds of sports.
Good. I think that's 48 seconds of sports is about the right amount of sports on this. We're not a big sports show, but nonetheless, sports is part of life and culture and the fabric of this great land. So I understand it and celebrate it for 48 seconds. Michael Shure joins second hour. Also, the culture blaster Michael Snyder joins second hour. We'll talk movies, streaming, Oscars, all of that stuff. I think we're going to see the substance tonight, which is the really creepy Demi Moore movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
No, but it's supposed to be really, really good and a once-in-a-lifetime role for a woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's very talented. Very, very talented.
Mm-hmm.
Trader
Never been
Joe's
anything like this.
egg prices $3.99 a dozen, says Dave. Dave, did you buy 600 dozen at $3.99 a dozen? Resell them in your neighborhood? That might be a play. You're looking for a side hustle. I'm just saying, you get a good deal on eggs. Now, one of the reasons that eggs will not drop in price is what? There's an emerging epidemic in this country. It is bird flu. It's real. And it has jumped populations from birds to cattle. And it even killed a cat that was drinking raw milk that was supposed to be for human consumption, but it was, served to the cat. Cat drank it and died. By the way, that's one of the great myths, that cats should have milk, and milk is not good for cats. Their own milk, I mean, the kittens get milk from their mothers, but that's not in any way a sense that cats are, but by now that mythology is unbreakable. People just associate cats with drinking milk, but it's not actually good on their system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have cats, but I didn't know that they shouldn't drink milk.
Yeah, it's there you go. That's the only fact that you'll really learn on this show today. But I'm glad we got it out of the. Eric says avian flu can spread to humans. Yeah, well, we've seen it spread to those who have been around poultry. We haven't seen it spread to the general population yet. But in that spirit, yeah,
there's a child with bird flu now.
Oh, there is.
There's a child hospitalized with bird flu, is what I understand.
Wow, that's huge then.
Mm-hmm.
That really is huge. I note that with an emerging epidemic, of course, millions and millions of these creatures have been killed because of the fear of this emerging epidemic of avian flu. But because of this, one would think there'd be a premium on research and on information coming from government about that. But one of the things that has happened this week is that Donald Trump has shut down just that, research in any number of areas when it comes to medicine and health at CDC, NIH, et cetera. Don't we have a piece of video on just this? Go ahead, Albert, please.
Cancer research. Why? Well, to be totally honest, we're not sure. But on his orders, the National Institutes of Health has frozen everything. Cancer research, Alzheimer's, diabetes. There's a lot not to like about the American healthcare system, but health research is one of the things that we do really, really well here in this country. We spend a lot of money on it for good reason. The NIH has a $48 billion budget, which funds 50,000 grants to 300,000 researchers across 2,500 research institutions nationwide, all over the place, studying all kinds of things. Institutions filled with some of the brightest minds from all over the world come here. I know some of them. Some of them are family members. Came to the U.S. so that they could conduct gold standard research in medical innovation to try to cure diseases that bedevil us. It's been woven into the fabric of this country for decades.
Among the buildings of the National Institute of Health to be dedicated here today stands the National Cancer Institute, created through provisions of the Act which I signed on August 5th, 1937. The work of this new institute is well underway. It is promoting and stimulating cancer research throughout the nation.
Let's stop right there, Albert. That's that's rather FDR, the recording. So one of the reasons that this is particularly important, especially when it comes to cancer research, is oftentimes the amount of money required to really build a coalition of medical professionals to do research like this. It's a tremendous number. So you really have to have a government-backed funding plan for a lot of this research to move forward. And so in any number of ways, NIH is critical. They have this clearinghouse of great scientists and researchers and doctors and medical professionals who come together for so much of this stuff. So it's sort of the way in which breakthroughs are made. So this is also alongside the pause, they say, in external communications issued by the parent organization of NIH. That's the Department of Health and Human Services. And they are pausing communications that are associated with information about bird flu, information about emerging issues that affect America's health and welfare. Again, this is under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. And while they are reorienting themselves with a new leadership, potentially Robert Kennedy Jr., the idea is that they have completely shut down all research and all communications about things like the avian flu. So this is not typical. This is extraordinary. This has not happened before. There isn't a pause on research every time there's a new president and new administration. Now, some of this is DEI. You know, they've really gone to war over DEI at the federal level. But obviously, the bulk of stuff that is being done at NIH and HHS-funded programs is not DEI, right? It's a scary time. It's a scary time, particularly, as I say, with arguably an emerging epidemic in this country, bird flu. The cancer research is ongoing, right? The cancer research is, cancer is so difficult because it's an elusive breakdown on a cellular level that's associated with any number of things. They think everything from genetic time bombs to external carcinogenic substances that we bathe in every day, right? I mean, they're everywhere, in the air, in the soil, in the water. And so, to what degree these external things prompt the body's cancers that may be in there already. I mean, I know many of you have read or certainly heard about different theories associated with cancer because there are so many different sorts of cancer. Yeah. And so many of them manifest in different ways, and they also originate in different ways. So, and in any case, I'm just saying that HHS is a wonderful resource for research, and the American government has the deep pockets to really make breakthroughs in so many of these areas. So this is I think it's a huge fail, and it's a huge fail for the American people, and yet one more myopic thing that this new administration is doing.
I just read the story, and it just feels so sad that the bird flu outbreak on Long Island has resulted in the culling of 100,000 ducks. And by culling, I mean they had to kill them all.
They closed down the entire farm. That entire farm was closed down. That's all they do is raise ducks, and they, slaughter them for food.
100,000 ducks. Wow.
By the way, just because it's important, not that they would ever focus on this specific, it seems like an administration, certainly at the top, and new President Trump doesn't really focus on specifics. We'll talk about the pardons that are issued and all the rest, but on the scientific research. The scientific research is granted money based on independent peer review. Okay, so it's not party specific. It's not a bunch of Democrats in a lab and a bunch of Republicans in a lab. These are medical professionals and researchers who don't really have strong party affiliations typically. They're involved in projects, and those projects are reviewed by two different panels is the way it works typically. And then that money is allocated, and it's allocated a couple of years in advance oftentimes. In other words, there is a process here that is not being respected at all. And there's a recklessness about all of this that I think is potentially insanely damaging. So
I've noticed that they're also wanting to control the flow of information. So whatever is coming out of the CDC, vital reports that would tell us about emerging viruses or threats, or tell our healthcare professionals how they should deal with these types of things. We used to have a weekly report, came out every Thursday. It was a morbidity report. And the Trump administration said, we're going to put a hold on that now. And anything that comes out of the CDC or any other agency within Health and Human Services is going to have to be approved by a Trump appointee. So what if they don't like the science, if they don't like the message? Sorry, we can't know about it.
Well, I mean, this is the practical consideration. Kim is exactly right. There's sort of this there's an update weekly, as she says, from CDC. It's on the state of disease and disease research typically, and there's a lot of other stuff in there too. But the idea somehow that you would shut it down is related to this. You may remember it during COVID, because COVID emerged during the first Trump administration. The message was, it's going to go away. Nothing to fear here. Everybody stay calm. Just go on about your business, right? It was oddly and quite appropriately.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
Exactly. And that was what the administration official position was. You remember other administration officials, including Larry Kudlow, coming forward, who was his economics guy. And economics advisors saying, don't worry about this. It's going to be gone in the spring. Well, that's an official position that they wanted re-articulated constantly by government agencies, but you had a problem. You had an independence in people like Anthony Fauci and others. You had doctors who basically, and researchers, are going to tell you what's really happening. And it was at odds with the story. It was a fairy tale that Trump was telling. So this is the way in which, and the reason that they're they're locking down this information is they may want that same approach to avian flu, and now they will get it. The CDC communications are shut down, NIH communications are shut down. So it's consistent with that kind of thing that brought them to this place.
So we're going to squash the facts so that we can make up our own story, whatever we want it to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's
great,
exactly
Mark.
it. Right. I mean, this is a propaganda machine, and Trump is the greatest at propaganda, but it's propaganda. It's untethered to reality. And so that's the situation on science. It's a sad day for those who care about this emerging H5N1 avian flu virus. This is a real problem, and it's an emerging problem. And, you know, again, welcome to the party, Mr. President. People are going to look to you to do something. And I suspect we're going to hear they're doing things just like we heard they were. Remember, they brought all the generals out and the admirals out. We're going to have the best distribution of this vaccine in the history of, right? He was a big vaccine guy at the beginning. Then, of course, his people, animated by people like Joe Rogan, also
RFK Jr.
RFK Jr., Alex Jones, they became so energized by conspiracy theories that Trump himself had to backpedal from his own COVID vaccine. I thought one of the things he did well was say, hey, guys, here's all this money. Full speed ahead. Let's beat the rest of the world to the vaccine.
Right.
But then he, again, played the anti-vax game. So Trump is trouble when it comes to getting real information, and it seems as though this may be just another flavor of that philosophy. Louis says, if there is a giant faucet California can just turn on, is there a giant barrel tap with an endless flow of Macallan 25 to help me deal with Donald Trump's science? A clown. Yeah.
We forgot to turn the valve so that LA gets water. We have to turn the massive California valve on. That's why you guys have fires down there. See?
It is, that's of course utter lunacy. There is no water being held back. There is not, I mean, he just makes this stuff up. But his supporters, I'll give you an example. Sean Hannity, he, again, re-articulates, re-amplifies whatever Trump is saying. I think we have some Hannity stuff associated with
The Mark Thompson Show.
He sat down with Hannity this week, and we'll get to it in a second. We'll do a chunk of Trump, and I'll get to it more. But I think that science thing is a big, big deal, and I'm glad we touched on it because, I mean, really, your ability to get solid science information is under threat. And I will give you a little something on Trump and his sit-down with Hannity as we continue to await his arrival in California. Now, I'd seen something in California about Trump's arrival and the fact that Newsom is going to greet him at the airport, but has no idea what airport he's actually going to be landing at. I mean, is that it?
Which is ridiculous. You know,
You think?
play these stupid games.
Yeah, pretty wild. Albert, did you blue sky or tweet that we are on the air live right now?
I had to do that on Twitter. I'm still not figured out what blue sky.
All right.
Anything on there.
Okay. I will await that, and I will retweet you, and then I'll somehow blue sky it. So, if you're just joining us, we are live for 2 hours, 11 to 1 on the West Coast, 2 to 4 on the East Coast. The Friday show is a great show because we have politics for a half hour. In the second hour, Michael Shure stops through, and he's a brilliant student of politics, and he'll give us a little bit of the political game here. There are some, and I know it's not literally a game, but there are aspects of gamesmanship that are associated with a lot of things going on right now. There's a budget proposal, there's a budget cliff that we're up against. In terms of the national doors staying open, programs remaining funded. There's a part of the Republican Party that would just as soon see America shut down. So if they can't reach some kind of, I would say, compromise, that may happen. So we'll discuss that with Michael Shure in the in the next hour. Did you see in the Bay Area? We came out of the Bay Area in a quick move. We came over here to YouTube. This is our radio show that moved over here, and we're slowly evolving it in different ways. But one of my old pals, Bill Martin, who is the longtime meteorologist, he's retiring. More than 3 decades there on Bay Area television.
He's been on the air forever.
He joined KTVU in 1992, a galaxy far, far away. Long ago, he was the weekend meteorologist, and then he slowly pushed people out of the way, and he became... I think they saw, hey, this guy's a star. He really knows his stuff, too. And he's become this trusted voice in Bay Area television, and he's led the Bay Area through critical weather events. How do I overlap with Bill Martin? Albert, do you know the answer to that question? Mark Thompson knows Bill Martin. How could I possibly know him?
Is this somehow in the meteorology world?
It is in the meteorology world. I'll give you. You're getting
your
warmer.
Intern?
Yeah.
Was he your
Yes.
intern?
Wow. That's very, very good, Albert. Impressive. Bill Martin was my intern at KRON, KRON, the NBC station at that time in San Francisco. And he was gifted. Then he's a surfer. He's an outdoorsy guy.
He's a surfer. He makes his own beer now. He used to have a recurring segment with Tom Tolbert on KMBR, and it was one of the most popular segments because they just talk about anything but sports. Usually with the weather about sports games. Like this weekend, they'd probably talk about the weather in Buffalo or, wherever the games are.
Well, he is retiring. You were right. He came up working with me at KRON. He learned at the feet of a master, Albert. He learned at the feet of a master.
Why are you yelling?
He was honored as one of the select group of meteorologists nationwide to meet President Obama and his science advisors. That was back when there was science in this country. He was invited there to discuss critical issues surrounding climate and climate change, I'm just seeing here. Now he's stepping away from the maps, and it says here that Bill is looking forward to pursuing his passions and spending more time with his beloved dog, Carl. Well, there you go. Bill Martin. He is retiring from KTVU. All of our Bay Area viewers will know Bill, and we wish him well.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Albert, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to do it. Don't try to stop me, Albert. I'm ready to do it. Give me a chunk of Trump.
Open wide.
Ready?
Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
Well, there is a price to be paid sometimes for allegiance to Trump. So it is with a donut cafe.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Negative reviews have hit a San Francisco donut cafe after the owner donated $1 million to Trump. George's Donuts and Merriment getting online backlash. The Merriment has left the building.
Sounds like such a happy place. What happened?
In this case, the Merriment is ironic, you see. It's named that. Well, what happened was, just weeks after opening, they're getting blowback because the co-owner's startup made a sizable donation to President Trump's inaugural committee. A lot of companies were doing that to curry favor with Trump. They were throwing a lot of money at Trump. In fact, you'll remember Zuckerberg and Bezos and everybody was throwing $1 million at him. Well, so it was with these people. The co-owner, Andrew Dudum, made $1 million donation to Trump's inaugural committee. And Dudum is the CEO of Hims and Hers, which is a telehealth company. And because Hims and Hers, in this case, Andrew Dudum's connection to hims and hers is connecting him to the $1 million donation, people also look at what else he owns. And again, he is part of the donut place. And so he is getting slammed on Yelp and Google pages, a barrage of negative reviews. And it's weird because they're getting all of these one-star reviews from people who say, I would, quote, not support a business that supports Trump. This is a high-end cafe, and they got the same one-star reviews on Google. They cannot get a break. Yeah.
I mean, in San Francisco, you have to expect that, right?
I guess. I mean, it's a weird thing. Like, you'd think, I've got great donuts. It's a great cafe. Why am I getting one-star reviews? And the answer is because of your politics. And as you say, maybe it's, hey, there's more to it than just like, you know, it looks like a very nice place.
Maybe you have great donuts, but they're Trump donuts now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a MAGA world there at that donut shop, I guess. But so it goes. One-star reviews for now for those folks. Meantime, Donald Trump is expected here in California, where we originate this show.
Well, this will be fun.
Yeah. You know, he toured the hurricane-ravaged area of Asheville, North Carolina, and that's where, by the way, he's been very forward about helping North Carolinians. I mean, a lot of government money has gone there. In fact, he made a bunch of statements to the effect that I'm going to get rid of red tape. You're going to, all the administrative holdups that one might expect, you're not going to have to worry about any of those, North Carolina. We're going to get you this relief money. Was it Helene was the superstorm hurricane that moved through, you'll remember. They were even worried that people wouldn't get a chance to vote because there were all those mud enveloped homes and roads, etc. So Trump stopped there in Asheville, and he said, I'm going to get rid of all of that red tape and just get you your money. And the governor there was very thankful, and all the public officials were quite grateful to Trump. He, along the way, said that he might even get rid of what? FEMA.
Yeah.
Yeah. He may get rid of FEMA. He said that I want governors to use their state to fix problems instead of calling FEMA.
Does that mean that we won't have to pay as much in federal taxes so we can pay more to our states? Or is he still going to take all of our money and just not give it to us when we need it?
Unclear. Unclear.
Nothing.
Thank you.
Whether it's a Democrat or Republican governor, Trump says, you want to use your state to fix it and not waste time calling FEMA. And then FEMA gets here and they don't know the area. They've never been to the area, and they want to give you rules that you've never heard about. Trump saying that I'm looking at the whole concept of FEMA. He says FEMA just hasn't done the job. We're looking at the whole concept of FEMA. I like, frankly, the concept when North Carolina gets hit, the governor takes care of it. When Florida gets hit, the governor takes care of it, meaning the state takes care of it. To have a group of people come in from an area that don't even know where they're going in order to solve immediately a problem is something that never worked for me, but this is probably one of the best examples of it not working. So I have one thought immediately. FEMA was incredibly successful in helping North Carolinians. There were FEMA officials on the ground. They set up mobile homes. They set up different areas for people who were displaced to immediately be housed. The monies dispensed were substantial. You remember so much attention was given to the fact that people were given close to $700. It was $600 and change. And that was just for short-term expenses, right, which was a great idea and really cool. But it was played like, look at that, FEMA's only giving people $600. I mean, who can live on $600? What can you buy in this country for $600? Well, it wasn't that you were supposed to buy anything, but like breakfast and lunch. I mean, the idea was just to give you some money for fuel, for this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And then larger FEMA grants were coming. The FEMA and federal response was impressive, and the FEMA and federal response has been impressive and is impressive in place after place. Now, are there problems with any of these big federal institutions and even state institutions? Look at California. Of course there are issues. And everything wasn't done according to Hoyle. Everything wasn't quite perfect. Not every I was dotted, not every T was crossed. I mean, there were issues. But FEMA itself and federal assistance is exactly what you want following a massive natural disaster. A state has been overwhelmed. Yeah. I mean, would you say to the Red Cross, guys, you don't know the area. We don't need you. We'll take care of things on our own. Yeah, I get it. You've got medical supplies. You've got, sorry, let us take care of it here. No. The Red Cross moves in. Others move in. Volunteers move in. In California, as we've just fought these fires, did we say to Mexico and Canada, no, we got this? Did we say to Arizona and Oregon and all of these, people came from far away to help I'm talking about firefighters, professionals, came from far away to help strategize, to fight, to actually get out there. We didn't turn that down. It takes a village, It's an absurd way to think about the desperate help that areas ravaged by natural disaster see the federal government. This is why you need government, for just those kinds of things. So, Trump says no more. And we'll see if he really shuts down the federal government's emergency response team or not. But no matter what, we just love something about him, don't we, everybody? I mean, it's just... Oh, there is a major announcement. There is a major announcement. There is a congressman who wants a third Trump term and wants to amend the Constitution to allow a third Trump term. And
What?
I know. Any other future president, it's noted, could also be elected to a third term. Representative Andy Ogles of Tennessee introducing the measure this week. The 22nd Amendment, of course, bars anybody from being elected to more than 2 terms, but Andy says no. Let's rethink that. Let's get President Trump and any other future president the opportunity to be elected to a third term in the White House. This is the quote. Trump has proven himself to be the only figure in modern history capable of reversing our nation's decay and restoring America to greatness. He must be given the time necessary to accomplish that goal. Well, I mean, for Representative Andy Ogles of Tennessee, apparently he's seen enough in the first 3 days of the American presidency to know that he's proven himself as the only figure in modern history capable of reversing our nation's decay. I mean, it's remarkable that just in 72 hours, 2 things have happened. Trump has proven himself so incredibly, and that Andy Ogles of Tennessee was so impressed that he has introduced this constitutional amendment. Wow. So impressive. Andy Ogles. It would normally require a constitutional amendment to serve more than 2 terms, says Eric. With this administration, Congressman SCOTUS, I'm not so sure anymore. Yeah, exactly. How can we amend it to be a 1-week term? Thank you, Amy B. Yeah. Obama could run again. That's true. It's called the Keep Trump Out of Prison Act. That could be. Yeah. AV of NYC says it. Yeah. The whole thing was to keep Trump out of prison. Why couldn't he just have been happy with that and go play golf? Instead, he's got that whole Project 2025 agenda that he's rocking. JB, Obama can run again. Yeah, JB. Good luck to former President Obama. The civil rights freeze at the Department of Justice is something else that's happened this week. I mean, they've been click-clacking. He has frozen all civil rights cases at the DOJ. It is not an anti-DEI agenda. It's an anti-civil rights agenda. I mean, it's a weird thing that Trump is going after DEI, but then he sees civil rights as also oversteering to help those whose civil rights might have been violated. And it's an extraordinary decision to freeze the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. And I would just say this, all of this was foretold in the good book, Project 2025. This is all exactly what they said they were going to do. And they are doing it and not wasting any time.
Oh, you mean the Project 2025 that Trump had no part in, and he wasn't even, those people, he doesn't even know those people. Look away. We have nothing to do with Project 2025.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't necessarily believe anything that Trump says when it comes to, I don't know that guy, I barely knew him. Remember when his first administration was populated by people who he said, I didn't know him, I barely knew the guy. There was that whole, it's an extraordinary thing. It's an extraordinary thing. Here to say I dislike Donald Trump, says Snowy Marie. Yeah, there's a lot of that going around right now. My computer just crashed on me. I'm sorry, Albert. I'm worthless to you now.
Trevor Starr in Hollywood says, for all the people freaking out about Trump, relax. This is only the first week. It's going to get so much worse. Thank you. It is.
I think it is going to be a wild ride. I will tell you that. I really do. I'm not at all convinced that it's not going to get worse. Anyway, Albert, with my computer crashing, I can't see what else there was, so that's your chunk of Trump.
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
for another chunk of Trump.
Yeah, there you go. Smash the like button like a boss.
Smash with your iron rod.
Sorry about the computer crashing. I don't know what I'm going to do, but we'll figure something out.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Trump will soon be playing golf, says Aurelian. That's why he's been busy doing 4 years worth of work, in quotes, in 1 week, so he can get back to golf. Yeah, how about that? That's probably not so wrong. I do want to just visit. I know I'm running a little. I got about 5 minutes. I do want to visit a little of the sit-down interview. I call it a back rub that Donald Trump got with Sean Hannity. I mean, I love that, the mainstream media was all after Kamala Harris. When is she going to sit down for a tough interview? When is she going to sit down with a... Yeah. Well, she sat down with 60 Minutes. And Kamala Harris was... They rode Kamala Harris like a rented mule about the fact that she didn't do media. She wasn't doing this. She wasn't doing that. Meantime, Donald Trump just did friendly media outlets. I include Joe Rogan. I mean, and again, I think that, and just to revisit it, in case you missed it, Rogan did extend an invite to Kamala Harris, and I think Kamala Harris should have done Joe Rogan. I said that at the time. Don't be afraid of Joe Rogan. Don't be afraid of any of these podcasters. They're all there essentially in a 2-hour conversation with you. You'll seem more human. And I'm giving you credit for being a skilled enough politician that the tougher questions you'll be able to anticipate, and you already have answers to that. So, as you know, she didn't do that. Trump did, but more to the point, these are the kinds of interviews that Trump was doing. He was doing Joe Rogan, and of course, he'll show up to Sean Hannity, and you'll remember from the first term, Sean Hannity used to call Trump, and Trump called Hannity every day during his first 4 years. Sean Hannity was essentially an advisor to the president, maybe his closest advisor. I mean, Trump is a TV guy. Look at his administration. And we're going to see a vote on Pete Hegseth today. The only reason Pete Hegseth is likely going to be running this immense organization is because he's on TV. He was on the weekend Fox News show. If Pete Hegseth weren't that guy on TV, he would be nowhere near the White House. He wouldn't be there on a tour. The guy is only going to be running the Department of Defense because he was the weekend anchor on Fox News Channel, and he said a lot of stuff that was flattering to Trump. And he looks good. So Trump is completely one-dimensional. But he sits down with his favorite one-dimensional interviewer who gives him the questions in the form of answers he just has to agree with. Here's his back rub with Sean Hannity, a little bit of it.
Let me ask about the economy. Okay, so will the tax cuts be permanent? No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. And explain, when you talk about all of this money under our feet, you know, and the golden era of America, and energy, you know, drill, baby, drill. How do you get these companies to invest billions? And how quickly are they going to extract this energy and maybe supply Western Europe? Because I agree with you. It's money that will save this country.
We have more oil and gas than any other country, and we're going to have more. And with Anwar, you know, which he ended, Anwar is the biggest. Anwar could be, that's in Alaska, could be as big or bigger than Saudi Arabia. We have more than any other country. It's a great thing. It's a great asset because China doesn't have that.
Stop it for a second, Albert.
I mean,
I'm
China
sorry to
does
stop
not
it, but
have
just
that.
to set the, you know, Anwar is the Alaska National Wildlife Refuge. It's a pristine area of land. Of course, I'm a tree hugger, so I don't want to see us drill there. I think it is to obliterate that beautiful landscape and to, in some way, forever end that pristine beauty is despicable. But that said, let me just speak to what he's saying. We don't know how much oil and energy is there. We don't know that because that information is being kept from us. I think the only oil drilling that was done at Anwar was in the 90s, and it was done by Chevron Corporation, and they've never released even how much they got out of there. So it's unclear really how much. Now, I know that there are all sorts of ways through satellite imagery and infrared technologies and other technologies associated with imaging to figure out how much oil is there. But some of what he's saying is just blather. I mean, he's just, you know, we have more energy than any other country on Earth. We already are producing more energy. I'm talking about old school, dirty energy than any other nation on Earth. It's true, but we're doing it under the Biden administration. So this drill, baby, drill thing is completely illusory. And the last thing I will say is that, and I've mentioned this before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. Remember, we drill, baby, drill. We lease these oil fields at a song to these companies. And what do they do with the energy? They do not keep it domestic. It goes up onto the world market. So you at the pump, if you're looking for a break because they're drill, baby, drilling, don't look for the break. You're not going to get it. If I were king, I would insist that if we give you the lease, that energy is staying in this country. That's not the way it works. Play the rest of the cut. I'm sorry to interrupt. I won't interrupt again.
They have to go out the old-fashioned way and buy it. We have more than anybody. We're going to become a wealthy country again, and energy is going to lead the way. But there'll be other things also, tariffs, because tariffs, you know, we were our wealthiest in the 1890s. Yeah. Okay. And by the way, we're going to rename Mount McKinley into Mount McKinley because he was a great president from Ohio. He was a senator from Ohio. He was a very successful businessman who believed strongly in tariffs. He ran for the Senate. He won. He ran for the presidency. He won. He was ultimately assassinated in his second term, but he made the country very rich. And Teddy Roosevelt then came along, and I'm not knocking Teddy Roosevelt, but he spent the money that was made during the McKinley years, and he did, you know, a lot of great things, like building the Panama Canal. The most expensive thing, the most expensive thing we've ever built is the Panama Canal.
And you're serious
and
about it?
Unfortunately, Jimmy Carter gave it away for $1. Oh, no, we're going to have to take it back. China is running the Panama Canal right now. That wasn't the deal.
And
it should have never been given. Well, the deal was not that China is going to run the Panama Canal.
If we became energy dominant and we provided all of Western Europe with our energy, wouldn't that help bankrupt Putin? Number one, he wouldn't be able to fund his wars. And number two, and I think that would make the world a safer place. And the amount of money we're talking about, would America become the single most energy wealthy country in the world? And what would that mean for paying down our debt, saving
We can
Social
supply
Security?
the whole world with energy. That's what we have. For hundreds of years, we could supply the whole with, at this moment, the best energy because natural gas is clean and it's powerful.
Okay, so stop. But he's the natural gas discoveries in this country, the ability to frack, et cetera, that did change the entire game. But natural gas isn't clean. We talked about that ad nauseum on this show, ad nauseum. It is a myth that natural gas is clean. So it's actually one of the greatest greenhouse gas producers there is. Methane, et cetera. These are the gases generated by natural gas. But he's making it up as he goes along. I mean, but this hyperbole that he deals with regularly, the idea somehow that, oh, you know, we could supply the entire world for hundreds of years. It's just absurd on its face. I thought I saw something in the chat that was talking about Anwar, and so I'm saying that there was, it is a tremendous oil supply, they think, but here I'm just looking at Alaska Public Media to get you the answer, because I know I was just kind of speaking from memory. But on the one hand, we do need petrol fuel, but the other, Alaska is native country with wildlife plus no man's land, because fracking can affect fault lines if error happens gravely, or Washington, California. Sakiomo Resurrect writes that. The USGS estimates there's somewhere between 4.3 and 11.8 billion barrels of oil in the coastal plain. Those are huge numbers. The second biggest oil field, the Kuparuk, holds about 2.5 billion. That's in Alaska too. So there could be an oil bonanza in the coastal plain, or not, they say. Whether it makes economic sense to drill there depends a lot on how big the oil deposits are and how hard it is to get those oil deposits out. And the controversy continues. But that's just an overview on Alaska, because he really will. It'll be open season on Anwar for sure. Was there something else with Trump, Albert? I'm way late, aren't I?
We're a little late. We have one more clip. They're talking about the January 6th pardons.
Oh, can we just do that, please? I'd like to. Hang on a second. Let me read this. The Lady Beatrice says, I'm no fan of science. Her super chat for $10. Thank you. I'm no fan of science, but the fact that the emperor is messing with our right to make good of it, makes me want to study it in support of the good it can do. Yeah, I don't know why you're no fan of science, lady. But all right. Look, I'm no fan of rational thought, but I'll just tell you something that if somebody else is against it. The Lady Beatrice, you'll have to explain that. I'm no fan of science part, but definitely when Trump goes against something, it makes you look at it. And when Trump supports something, you go, I might want to look at that too. The fact that 22 states are suing the emperor over ending birthright citizenship proves one thing. Mess with the kitty, get the claws, Lady Beatrice says. Yeah, love it. Mess with the kitty, get the claws. I like that. All right, play me the second cut, please, Albert.
You were very straightforward. You said you would pardon these people that were sentenced for January 6th.
Yeah, totally.
You did. The only criticism or pushback I've seen is about people that were convicted or were involved in incidents where they were violent with police. Why did they get a pardon?
A number of reasons. Number one, they were in there for 3.5 years, a long time.
Right.
And in many solitary confinement, treated like nobody's ever been treated so badly. They were treated like the worst criminals in history. And you know what they were there for? They were protesting the vote because they knew the election was rigged and they were protesting the vote. And that you should be allowed to protest a vote. You should be allowed to. You know, when the day comes,
you shouldn't be able to invade the Capitol.
No, ready? Most of the people were absolutely innocent. Okay, but forgetting all about that, these people have served horribly a long time. It would be very, very cumbersome to go and look. You know how many people we're talking about? 1,500 people. Almost all of them should not have been. This should not have happened. And the other thing is this: some of those people with the police, true, but They were very minor incidents, okay? You know, they get built up by a couple of fake guys that are on CNN all the time.
Nobody watches.
They were very minor incidents, and it was time. You have murderers in Philadelphia. You have murderers in Los Angeles that don't even get any time. They don't even collect them, and they know they're there to be collected. And then they go on television and act holier than thou about this one or that one. You had 1,500 people that suffered. That's a lot of people.
That's his characterization of it, and it's despicable. We have detailed for you what happened. These are violent men who are essentially a paramilitary group. I mean, I think they are a paramilitary group of the sort that is scary because it establishes essentially something that Trump wants to establish, which is there is a group of armed militia members who will do my bidding, and they are intimidating, and they will get away with it. We just showed you that they'll get away with it. We pardoned them. I mean, this guy, Michael Fanone, who we had on yesterday, we had a clip on from him. He was off duty. He came in because he got a radio call. He ends up getting tased repeatedly to the neck. They sprayed his face with bear spray. He was beaten within an inch of his life. I mean, this guy is a courageous patriot, and he ends up with the current president pardoning violent people who are associated with the takeover of this country. They were part of an attempted coup. They were trying to kill people that day.
Yeah.
And they had the means to do it. And they were pardoned. It's despicable. It's grotesque. And now this guy, Fanone, is worried about his own personal safety and the safety of his family. And he should be worried. I mean, essentially, it's that line I mentioned to you yesterday. For my friends, everything. For my opponents, the law. Meaning, I'm going to bring the law down on anybody who opposes me, but if you're a Trump loyalist, I'll take care of you. You can do anything. For my friends, anything. For my opponents, the law. And I'm telling you, when a law is only as good as the people who are enforcing it. I mention it to you from time to time in other contexts, but in this context, it's just nauseating and it's scary. And as I said, this paramilitary troop, and here's the last thing I want to say on this. This paramilitary troop will increasingly be now, I think, weaponized for Trump in the way I've suggested, which is sort of like just kind of scary, and they might go after public officials, and everybody's intimidated. You've heard Mitt Romney speak about this and talk about the fact that he fears for his family and others, Fanone, Fauci, etc. Fauci, who just had his security detail lifted. But the other thing you're going to see happen is you're going to see these guys supplement existing law enforcement with the understanding from Washington, from the President of the United States, that, yeah, these guys are essentially deputized to help out at the border, let's say. And they can do whatever they want because they know that the king will pardon them. That's what's happening here. It's an extremely dangerous time. And I thought that was a clarion call when he pardons so many violent criminals who were adjudicated as such by Trump judges who presided over those cases in jury cases. It's a scary time in America for just that reason. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, let me get into something else, Albert. Albert, I crave your leadership. I crave a producer who can point the right way for me. What should we do?
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
It is, sadly, it will fall to you if we get too far behind, Albert. So what would you like to do?
It is Florida. It's Friday, so we have Florida.
Oh, thank you. So Florida will be now what we do?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
And we could do three, maybe just the top three if you can see it there.
All right. I am just now rebooting the computer. I have to say something in my own, if I can just pat myself on the back for a second. Everything I've been saying and doing for the last 7 minutes, I've been doing while trying to repair my computer. Yes. I'm just saying. That's a pretty high level of difficulty. That's all I'm saying.
Which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Thank you. All right, let's do it. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
Friday Fabulous Florida, curated by Albert. We have 3 offerings for you right now, and there is an area to vote on these in the chat live. A Florida woman hides drugs in a bag labeled "definitely not a bag full of drugs."
What?
Nothing to see here.
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
I don't know. The woman was arrested on drug-related charges, booked into the county jail. If you don't believe us, there it is. Definitely not a bag full of drugs. It happened in Brevard County. And she was released from a 10-day, I guess she was in jail and got out 10 days prior on drug charges. 10 days later, she's back in jail. The poor thing with
It's like such a sad sack.
She doesn't look, for those just listening, not seeing, she does have a downcast, sad look to her. The bag was filled with snacks.
No.
No, this is the this is the post about it. It was actually a bag full of drugs.
It had methamphetamine, it had needles, it had Narcan, it had digital scales and small baggies and cut straws and drug paraphernalia.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
It was definitely a bag full of drugs. Yep.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Yes, exactly. A doctor finds a Florida man has cholesterol oozing from his body.
What?
I know. I don't believe it either. Let's read on. A man from Tampa. He started leaking chunks of cholesterol from his skin after spending years gorging himself on fatty foods. It was part of what he called a carnivore diet. Wow.
I've never seen anything like it.
Wow. Turns out he was eating so much fatty food that it started to seep out of his skin. He's a guy in his 40s. We're showing you pictures of his hands now. He went to Tampa General after he saw strange, pale, yellowish nodules emerging from his palms, his soles, and his elbows.
Ew.
Yeah, it's a definite ooh. The man reportedly had started on this carnivore diet 8 months prior. He, of course, eating primarily animal-based foods. The diet eliminates carbohydrates entirely and relying instead on proteins and fats for energy, all of which are from animal sources, they note. People on the carnivore diet, they say, generally consume foods including meat, fish, eggs, organ meat, bone marrow, full-fat dairy, and animal fats.
It's not fake. That's real.
Yeah. Sounds so nauseating when you put it like that. His dietary habits, they say, included a high intake of fats consisting of 6 to 9 pounds of cheese, sticks of butter, additional fat incorporated into his daily hamburgers, doctors wrote on the report.
Oh, no.
The man told the doctors that this diet had caused him to lose weight. Also had more energy, Kim. Improved his mental clarity. The doctors found that the man's blood cholesterol levels were over 1,000. For reference, according to Johns Hopkins Medicine, a normal cholesterol level is less than 200. Anything over 240 is considered high. Again, his was 1,000.
Good day, sir.
Yeah. He's...
I've never seen anything like it.
You probably have seen something like it, actually. The condition often linked to elevated levels of low-density cholesterol, triglycerides, blah, 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 blah. He is recovering.
There's
Unclear.
a name for this. Apparently, it's called xanthelasma. It's a condition that causes yellowish fatty deposits to form under the skin by a buildup of cholesterol or other fats. Yikes.
Wow. That's
The image is hideous.
Yeah, it is.
That's not fake. That's real.
Okay. The Florida man arrested has he been short of his goal. He was trying to climb over the wall at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. Bijan Arceo, 32, climbed over a wall. The wall had a sign on it, Kim. It said, "No trespassing."
He's silly. Doesn't he know he can just take the secret tunnel in?
Yeah, go in with the other people who are there just to review the classified documents that are
There you
everywhere.
go. Right.
A man has been charged with jumping over an outer wall at President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. And there he is. We're showing him to you. On the Mark Thompson booking scale, I'm wondering he's an attractive young guy.
No,
Bijan's 32.
He has wild, drug-addled eyes.
No?
I'm going to go maybe 6.
No?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Lots of 6s and 7s in the chat. Michael Shore needs a couple more minutes, so I think we could do the last story, too.
No, all right. That's good news. Police say that Arceo got inside the resort from South Ocean Boulevard. That's the preferred way to get into the Mar-a-Lago estate, the South Ocean Boulevard wall. Arceo had not entered the sweep area, nor had been granted permission to enter the protected site. Of course, Secret Service is everywhere there. No impact on our protective operations, said the Secret Service people. The arrest is being handled at the local level, they said. We remain thankful to the town of Palm Beach and the police department there. All right. And finally, then, a man accused of stealing thousands of dollars worth of medals is arrested. He was trying to steal those medals from the school district of Palm Beach. Michael A. Falcone was arrested and charged with 2 counts of burglary, 2 counts of criminal mischief, grand theft, and trying to obtain property. The school district of Palm Beach, their cops got information that Falcone was selling significant quantities of copper wiring and brass to a metal recycling company located in West Palm. There he is, Kim. I think he kind of looks like he's got that "you got me" look on his face. You know, yeah.
Yep. Didn't expect to be arrested, did you, fella?
Yeah,
Nope.
it's metals, metals, not medals, medals, Tom, in answer to your question. It's a good question, metals or metals. Yeah, he was just trying to get in 18 different copper thefts, a little side hustle going, you know? And
he does seem to have facial tattoos, which is probably not good if you're up to no good, right?
Oh, that's true. So that's
very identifiable.
Yeah, you're right. People can then say, "Hey, were there any, distinguishing features?" And you go, "Well, as a matter of fact, on his face there were. Oh, on his face. So that should be pretty easy to pick up."
Yeah,
I don't see any
3 dots in the
tattoos.
triangle. Yeah,
Those dots are tattoos, Kim.
Oh.
Kim, you lead a sheltered life there in that small town of
guess so.
Petaluma. You've probably not seen a lot of people with the
Not freckles.
tattoos on their face.
Okay.
I'm a big city boy. I can tell you that's, those are tattoos. Albert is correct.
So-
It is time. I'm sorry, Kim.
I just want to tell you that this man, Mr. Falcone,
Yeah.
he was wearing a school district issued uniform and a badge while he was selling materials that belonged to the school district. It's like, dude.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
My other shirt was in the wash, so I just
You're
wore
wearing
the standard issue.
You can't do that.
You just don't get it, do you?
You don't.
You don't.
You don't get it, dude. You do not get it. You can't.
It's a dumb criminal file. Really?
To arrest me, call 1-800. You're busted. Right. The fact is we have to pick a favorite. We don't want to, but it's in the bylaws of the show. Here is a recap of what you just heard. The Florida woman who is hiding drugs in a bag labeled "definitely not a bag full of drugs." Florida man who's on that carnivorous diet, as he called it, starts oozing cholesterol through his hands, feet, and other pores.
Gross.
Florida man who's arrested after allegedly climbing over the wall at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. Kim felt he had the eyes of a drug-addled man. I thought he was rather handsome. Man accused of stealing thousands of dollars worth of medals from the Palm Beach School District, and he was wearing a Palm Beach School District uniform as he was selling the stolen goods. We can't, decide what's best because there are no right answers or wrong answers, but nonetheless, we have to pick favorites, and so we start with you, Kim.
It's a full-on cavalcade of stupid this week, Mark. Who is the stupidest criminal of all? I'm gonna have
Don't talk to me that way.
I'm gonna have to go with the carnivorous diet guy. Anyone who thinks eating fat and meat is healthy, I have a huge question mark. I mean, the guy was eating 9 pounds of butter and cheese a day. What do you think is going to happen, bonehead? I go with the carnivore.
Carnivore is the choice from Kim. Albert, what would you choose, sir?
There's two clear favorites. It's the cholesterol hands and the bag full of drugs. It's a toss-up, but I've never seen the bag full of drugs you could think about. Like that seems like Florida, but if you're oozing cholesterol from your hands, that's nasty, one. And number two, that's my vote. That's...
and well, it's unanimous. I think the cholesterol-ridden Florida man is where I go with. Albert, in the chat, I wonder if you could tell me what did the boys and girls in the chat say?
The bag full of drugs, 45% of the vote, and then 40% for the cholesterol hand. So the chat loves the bag because it's very Florida, but I think we all love the cholesterol hands. We've never seen that one before.
Never seen anything.
Never been anything like it.
Never seen anything like it.
There's never been anything like this.
There you go. Or we've never seen anything like it. I appreciate a very well curated segment.
I've never seen anything like it.
All right, that's Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Sorry,
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, let's get back to some business. That was our little Florida diversion. It is always a thrill on Fridays for me, and thrill might overstate it for some, but it doesn't overstate it for me. I am literally thrilled whenever I get a chance to talk to this man. He has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. Michael Shure, everybody.
You're one person out there that gets a thrill, and I like that. Man, do I like that.
Yeah.
It's good to be on the show. Good to be here on our show with you.
It's definitely something that we need to mention. You filled in for me, and you were just terrific. I mean, you're awesome. So I thank you very much for your service, as it's often said.
You're very kind to say it. The crack staff of the Mark Thompson Show makes it very easy, and your audience and your guests. I think I want to come and go on a rainbow. Can that be arranged?
No, you cannot come and go on a rainbow. I mean, I think you are. This is a tendency you have, which is to kind of rewrite the bylaws of the show. I mean, you in your own way. You're kind of like Trump, who comes in and just wants to, delete certain parts of the Constitution. I want to come and go on a rainbow. Hey, I want to do a sports segment, 48 seconds of sports. I want to start the show whenever I want to. This is. I don't want it to have this meeting out loud in front of the whole audience, but I feel
I think the audience should be privy to these sorts of things. It's friendly banter. We love each other, and 48 seconds of sports is not going anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we've now embraced it, so it's now a part of the show. Everybody's favorite president has just taken power, and he has been busy with a fire hose of stuff. A lot of the stuff he did promise. The pardoning of these violent criminals, alongside many who were brought up on charges and convicted of charges and everything from trespassing to obstructing an official proceeding, this kind of thing. People who were there, if you will, not in perpetration of a violent crime. He erased all of those in one fell swoop, all of those charges and all of those convictions, commuting these sentences and pardoning all of these people all at once. There was no individual review, clearly, and it's deeply disturbing. And I mentioned prior to your arrival here last hour, I was talking about him essentially building his own paramilitary. I think these are people who are you're going to see called upon to do things like administer supplemental support at the border or handle some kind of a protest or demonstration. These are people who are going to be normalized. So it's more than just a pardon. I believe it's a method of intimidation. I know I've said brown shirts before. I mean, kind of Hitler's army, a personal army. But there is a sense, Michael, that I find this extremely disturbing on a lot of levels because of the damage they did and what they did, and beating police officers effectively to death. I wonder if you can comment on this commutation that he went right after on day one.
Well, I will say it wasn't surprising because this is something he did and teased in the run up to the election when he would have these rallies. You talk about the paramilitary. There's always been, whether it's the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers or groups that I can't even identify but have seen dozens of times, many of their members at his rallies. At the first time I saw the biggest slew of them was in Utah at the vice presidential debate between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris in I guess it was in 2020, around then. There already is this sort of paramilitary that is unofficially part of Trump world when he's on the road. So the fact that he's trying to officialize it isn't surprising. The J6 thing, Trump has, to me personally, because I know so many people who work on Capitol Hill in every facet of work that can be done on Capitol Hill, who were terrified that day. And to know that the president doesn't have their backs at all is an incredible thing. But I put more of the blame on the silence of Republican elected officials on Capitol Hill in D.C. who just let this stuff happen, but have to walk by the people that were assaulted every day. And some of them themselves were living in fear. Senators and congressmen running, ducking, putting gas masks on, their staffs terrified. They were there that day. And they're not speaking up against this right now with any outrage whatsoever. The fear that this man instills in the people that support him is something I've never seen before in politics. I've seen adherence, I've seen devotion, I've seen super fandom. Even with Reagan, people, when he started to lose his faculties, his biggest supporters talked about it. Nixon was left in the dust by people who felt that he had broken the law. So I've never seen the sycophantishness that is happening now with these people on Capitol Hill who just let him do it. Now, they couldn't change it. There was nothing they could do. So, but speaking about it is okay too, because it's horrendous.
Well, as you suggested and implied, they've actively avoided commenting on it. They're being besieged by questions on the part of the correspondents who cover the Hill. Ask for comment. You go, I didn't really look at it. I didn't really see. It's that typical kind of, he's
Time
got
to
that
move
power.
on. That's in the past. We're about the future. All of these sort of, maxims of evasion are being employed. And look, I understand it with some people. I understand some people agree with it, right? I don't understand how, but I understand that they do. But there has to be some sort of leadership taken on this, and it's beyond that.
Well, it's interesting, too. I'll just say this as an aside, that they want to look forward. That is the typical, we're not talking about that anymore. We're on to the next thing. But they actually are impaneling a committee, or at least had planned to, investigating January 6th on their own terms, the Republicans in the House. So they were essentially going to, I feel, whitewash the past, recharacterize the past, and in revisiting January 6th, they were going to do their own version of history, which they're still, I think, largely going to do. They're just going to do it without that committee, maybe, because it comes out that in subpoenas, particularly to, I'm sorry, I just spaced her name, Michael. And Albert, maybe you have it, or Kim.
It's Kim. Oh, sorry.
In the subpoenas, it is thought that in subpoena communications around January 6th, there are Republicans, members of Congress, who were sending sexted related text to Cassidy Hutchinson, she's the name I just couldn't think of for a second.
Yeah.
Cassidy Hutchinson was one of the people who was going to be, again, she testified at the first J6 hearing that was run by Democrats. She was going to be called upon at this hearing. But now there are Republicans saying, don't subpoena her ixnay on the J6A because there are a bunch of sects, I guess the kids call them, right? And they were sent to Cassidy Hutchinson from members of Congress.
Yeah.
So again, I'll turn it to you, but we learned that they were going to weaponize their own sort of investigation to erase history. Now, I don't know where that falls. And by the way, I want to make it clear, I'm asking you these questions, not just out of, aren't you shocked, but because you do have a political perspective. So you can kind of do the handicapping for the political damage or benefit that any of this accrues to either party.
Yeah, it's the glass house of representatives, right? I mean, they'll until it gets to them, they're fine slinging those arrows and throwing those stones. It doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, and I'm not saying that there's nefariousness on the part of every member of Congress at all, but there is a holier than thou position that many take, especially on the right. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist on the left, but it happens more on the Republican side because they're the ones that are most reliant about holiness. There are plenty of things to criticize about the Democratic side, but the ones who lean on holiness are often the ones who hold themselves to that level, and it doesn't, and they're the ones that end up violating that. So it doesn't surprise me at all. We've heard from people like Madison Cawthorn, Roger Stone, other people in the Republican world about crazy drug parties and sex parties and things like that. It doesn't happen all the time. I don't believe that that's happening every weekend. I don't believe it's happening with very many members of Congress, but that it happens and that something like this, that these sects to Cassidy Hutchinson exist, that doesn't surprise me. But, nor does it surprise me that they want to have their own investigation because they didn't like the last investigation. It didn't give them the results that they'd wanted. The result that they wanted was that Trump was elected again, and that's what they got. And so they can sort of run roughshod over whatever happened in the last Congress. But again, there's no evidence to it. There's no. I haven't seen the smoking gun or the hot text or anything like that. So until I see it, I can't really comment on it. But that's kind of implicit blackmail exists doesn't surprise me at all.
And this guy Loudermilk is really a piece of work, huh?
Very Loudermilk from Georgia. Yeah.
He's the guy who said that they are going to call many people in for questioning who have been pardoned by Joe Biden because they don't have anything to worry about in terms of any kind of legal exposure, so they have no reason to evade the pardon. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You can't use the Fifth Amendment to incriminate yourself because incrimination doesn't matter because you're not subject. But again,
Exactly.
legal scholars are saying you may not want to incriminate yourself publicly. It's not necessarily in the face of law. It might. I don't want to incriminate myself from further prosecution. It might be for something else for which you weren't pardoned. Because you were pardoned doesn't mean you can't commit another crime or infraction and be tried for it and imprisoned for it. If you were pardoned by Joe Biden and you go out and you kill someone, you're not pardoned for that, for example.
Well, just funny that Loudermilk himself was a big part of this January 6th question because he had led a tour of the Capitol complex on January 5th, all right, showing people around. And by the way, it wasn't open at that time. In other words, this is a time when the complex was closed off to tours, et cetera. And that really has never been spoken of. That is to say, never been, mentioned or widely reported in a way that, has dogged Loudermilk. So he can get away with this crap about how he wants to start his own committee investigation, those pardoned, those not pardoned. He actually wants to bring in J6 committee members from the original investigative bodies. So he's a piece of work in himself.
He is, and he's somebody who's been a real Trump sycophant, again, to use that word, for a long time. I was at one of Trump's State of the Union addresses, and I was sort of in the back when Trump was leaving. Not in the back of the chamber, but Trump was leaving. He walks through a path, and Loudermilk was right there. And I heard Loudermilk just say to him, "Home run, Mr. President! Home run! You hit a home run!" And I thought, my God, I've seen the pat on the back and great speech, and I hadn't seen, and Trump was at that point a new flavor. It may have even been his first State of the Union, and Barry Loudermilk was right there, just trying to be, suck up to the president. He hasn't stopped since.
There is another level of ass kissing going on right now. I mean, it's unreal. I mean, I'd be embarrassed. One of the things about Hollywood, they talk about, you have to schmooze people, and I'm not good at that. Like, if I don't want to talk to somebody, fortunately, I like people and I like talking to them. So for the most part, it does not really affect me. But when I feel like I'm only talking because I'm trying to get something, I just really don't have that move, that ass kissing move. But these guys really got good at it in a hurry. Oh, I don't know if they're good at it. I mean, I've never seen it so obvious. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obvious, and look, people were like, Democrats were like that with Barack Obama. They were like that with Bill Clinton. Republicans were like that with Ronald Reagan. Less so with George H.W. Bush. He wasn't the kind of person that inspired that, but they were certainly supportive. And there was a wing of old sort of partisan Republicans who were that way. And everybody has their inner circle, right, that are partisan to them. That's part of politics in general. But the mystery is how this person cast that spell. And I don't get it. I don't get the connection with that they make to him, because objectively, he hasn't made their lives, these elected officials, much better. He's kept them in office, but they didn't need Donald Trump to keep them in office.
This is the political side, and that's what's interesting to me. I think you make such a good point. It hadn't occurred to me that, I see him as a powerful political figure, and that power is, in a sense, bestowed upon those who suck up to him. And so therefore that gives them political momentum. But your point's an important one, which is, no, these guys probably already had their districts, or they pretty much had their political lives guaranteed. So he's actually not bringing them a lot of that political power. It's possible, though, Michael, he's not building political headwinds for them, which they might have to deal with if he was to, call them out in some sort of negative fashion.
The re-election, the incumbency success rate in the House of Representatives is like 94%, right? Yeah. If Nikki Haley had been president right now, these people would not be facing a firestorm of opposition from within their own party. They would not be, any less likely to beat a Democrat next time than they are today. What maybe in the actual raw number calculus elections is that they know, and we know, that Trump for some reason has awakened a sleeping giant of voters that they want to hang on to. That what boggles my mind is when he's not there, they don't come out. We've seen that in special elections. We've seen that in off-year elections. When Donald Trump's not on the ballot, these people don't bother. And you would think, as an elected official, some elected officials would know that, right? Doesn't mean you have to cross him, but to suck up to him is a conscious decision that doesn't seem like it has borne out well for very many people. As a matter of fact, those people are usually the ones who he most publicly ostracizes for having one moment of disagreement with him.
No, it's true. It's true. The end of the ride is no fun, even though the ride might be. Chris says, talk about the Musk salute. That really happened. I think you and I disagree on this. I think Musk absolutely was giving a Nazi salute. I absolutely believe it. I saw it. He did it twice. He pounded his chest and he went like that. And then he turned to the rest of the crowd. He pounded it again and saluted like that.
We disagree with that. I mean, I'm not going to take it to the mat because I don't want to give it that much air. I think that Elon Musk is a very awkward, nerdy, geeky guy, as a lot of people who have great success in technology will agree that they are. And I think that was his dab, his whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not going to fight anybody who thinks that I'm wrong about that, because it's just my opinion. But his, there is a consistency that runs through the people he supports, the parties he supports, the texts he's issued that have come out since then about Nazism and whatnot. I believe.
What were the? I'm sorry, maybe I missed it because I didn't see anything. I didn't see him declare anything kind of disavowing.
There was nothing declarative. He actually disavowed it as that. But there were texts that showed sympathies that I perused the other night, and I don't know to when they were contemporaneous, and I don't want to quote them. I'm sure we can find them. But he to me. And it doesn't matter. Like, I hate even standing and fighting about it, because it doesn't matter. I'll never know.
No, we're not fighting. We're just interpreting. But
no. What I mean is, I'll never know if I'm wrong or right, and it doesn't really matter.
Sure.
What matters is the substance of what he has become and his influence on our American politics and on this administration. And that matters.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So
John Watson points out.
I'd rather it have been a Nazi salute so that we could see blatantly. I'd rather him say that it was, so we can see exactly what's behind the Emperor's new clothes.
It could have been the Terran salute, the evil alternate universe federation in Star Trek, says John Watson.
Well, yeah, that's sort of what I mean, Mark. I don't know the Terran salute, but Trekkies and that ilk of person who, they love that stuff, and they're wildly successful, in that world. Those shows and that industry is so wildly successful. That's what I was saying. It seems like it was something that was just awkward. But again, I don't
exactly
give him the benefit of any doubt. That was how it struck me.
Now, I had a look. Among the things that Trump has talked about on the campaign trail and is executing on day one is this slew of executive orders. Bannon talked for a long time and on numerous occasions about the plan to handle the media. And he talked about flooding the zone. It was an articulated plan by Steve Bannon to hit the media with so much stuff, so many controversial things that they couldn't possibly handle them all and give them all oxygen. It feels as though that is what's happening. And so even as this president goes after DEI, dismisses all the people in that part of government, the freeze on information and shutdown of NIH. I mean, these are projects that go on over years for cancer research, for viruses of all sort, and extending down to the CDC. Now, the CDC can't get out any information about H5N1 avian flu. These are serious things that are happening, but they're happening, as we were saying, in this world of the first few days being filled with everything from immigration raids to pardons. And so it is hard to give these things their appropriate oxygen.
Yeah. So here's, the cold comfort here is that Donald Trump does a lot of posturing, and he does a lot of day one things. He's not great at day 2 and day 30 and day 100. And so the symbolism of the message is what he wants to get across more than anything. Build the wall, build the wall, build the wall, and then throw up a couple of panels, right? That's always the example that's easiest to get to. His efficiency record is not great. That said, the fact that this is what he's coming out of the gate with is both expected and appalling.
Trump did not shut down NIH. The NIH. He has paused a lot of what they do. Yeah, he's paused a lot of what they do. But Randy, that's not done by incoming presidents. That's not what happens, okay? They're going to go, okay, let's stop everything down at the CDC, NIH, all the... so this is quite unorthodox. And it does have an effect. Research and scientific research, it's on a continuum. It's on a linear, planned strategy that extends out over years. And
for
you just
sure.
can't...
Sure. Yeah. That's fact, Mark. And you're right. But presidents do this, and they do it more and more. They just don't do it in this way. That day one executive order thing for some, if enough reporters are out there saying, what are you going to do on day one? Well, they're going to have a list of things by the time they get there. You're in Iowa in freezing cold and you got me shoving a mic in your mouth. What are you going to do on day one? Or to a voter, what do you want them to do on day one, right? And then they get there, they have a whole list of things that they've told people they're going to do on day one, and they want to stick to it. And that's part of the problem as well. But you're right, the level of things that he is doing and the priorities he is making when this is a nation that he promised to help, and he's going into places. I mean, today he's talking about doing away with FEMA, right?
That's right.
And so, like, the whole idea that the government is there in part to help the people is not something that he embraces at all. And so you see NIH, you see FEMA, you see the Department of Energy, Department of Education, all in his crosshairs. Because why? Because it sounds good to the people who don't want, other people to be lifted up.
I like that you qualified what you said, because there is a sense of longtime political reporters, and you're one of them. I mean, you're a longtime political reporter. I mean, in your reporting, there's sort of a normalization of things. And I think when you see a president, for example, buy into crypto with his own coin, and then his wife has their own coin, and then those members of his family have their own coins. They're these meme coins that are associated with no kind of value. And they're not, in other words, you can't, there's no currency associated with them. I mean, almost in the virtual sense, and not the virtual meaning internet, but in the sense that you can't use them to buy something. It's just the arbitrage of that world. And then you, after you establish your coin, throw up government, and you appoint people to govern digital assets in your administration. You give, through executive order, all this altitude to the world of crypto. You're self-dealing there. There are a lot of ways that this administration stuff. So there are executive
you're
orders.
Self-dealing, but you're also playing with your legacy there too, because you can connect dots here, Mark. The people that are into crypto, the tech billionaires too, many of them are the ones who came to the Trump family and said, we think we need, in order for MAGA to continue, we need our guy. We need somebody on that ticket. That's where you can see the sort of genesis of J.D. Vance. And so what does that do? If they're controlling, right, the ticket, they're controlling the party, then of course the party is going to go back to them and boost up what they're doing. So it does come back to the politics of even MAGA and the Trump Vance ticket.
And adjacent to that, I'd say, is the open corruption of this administration. I feel the grifter is to be kind. I mean, a grift feels a little bit of sort of what we've seen on a daily basis and on a monthly basis from Donald Trump. The grift, the sneakers, everything else he sells, the Bibles, etc. Ways in which you can enrich Donald Trump by, in Oklahoma, making sure that they buy $3 million worth of the Trump Bible so that they will go into the school. These are grifts. But what's happening with crypto is dark money that can never be traced. So if you're really looking to just pour, and I'm talking about billions of dollars into the president's pockets, you can do it now. The door is wide open in this dark world of crypto, untraceable.
Yeah. It's true. It's untraceable, and it also skirts, I think, probably the emoluments clause in a way. I'm not a lawyer, but I think we all learned about the emoluments clause with Trump in his first term, and the way that he was getting money from foreigners were staying, foreign governments were staying at the Trump hotel, and Secret Service, like, he was making money off of other people going there. So he continues to make money there, and that's a violation, certainly with a foreign government, of the emoluments clause. And domestically and with crypto, I don't know as well because I'm not a lawyer, but it's certainly related. It's a cousin to that. And that influence doesn't go away. And the fact, as you rightly point out, that it's dark, that is a covert influence. Look, we're all learning about crypto, right? It's a new thing. It's 10 years old or however old it is, which is very, very new as a currency and as a way of making money, of raising money, of multiplying money. But the fact that the president of the United States is doing it and it's dark and you don't know all about it is enough to mean that it shouldn't be happening.
Well, exactly right, too, and sort of recapitulating the history that Trump has with self-dealing and taking care of himself and his family. As you know, the Trump property was kind of a place that all that money was dropped when you had a deal, any kind of regulatory meeting. The T-Mobile thing comes to mind. When T-Mobile had a regulatory meeting at the White House and with the past Trump administration, the first time, they bought out levels of the hotel, I mean, the entire floors of the hotel at the Trump hotel in Washington. And the grift associated with Secret Service continued even when he wasn't president. The Secret Service would charge top rates for the various resorts that he said he was likely going to be visiting. And so the Secret Service has to buy up all those rooms. Even if he doesn't go there, they have to buy them just in case he might go. So there are all these different ways in which that he can money himself. I want to quickly get to Hegseth, and I don't know if that vote has happened. Kim, has the Hegseth vote happened yet? You can let us know if it does happen. I know later today that confirmation vote will happen. And Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, the two senators who may not vote for Hegseth, that would still not be enough probably
It would still be 51-49. They voted not to move his nomination to the floor just yet. But today, I think that this will not happen until late tonight or tomorrow, unless you have information that I don't, which is pretty possible. Been dealing with a few other things today, but I think that they're going to need to find some friends, Murkowski and Collins, in order to make this happen. And so 51-49 isn't enough. Neither is 50-50 because Vice President Vance would be the deciding vote there. So they're going to need to find two other Republicans to say that Pete Hegseth isn't there. And then the other part of that is the keg dry stuff. What does that mean for RFK Jr. and Kash Patel? A Republican Senate with a 6-seat majority is not going to just keep rejecting members of the cabinet, and which is the one or maybe two that people would most like to see not be confirmed. Is it Pete Hegseth? Is it Kash Patel? Tulsi Gabbard? Is it RFK Jr.? It's not going to be a swath of them with that much of a majority in the Senate. So people are careful. They'd like to see a lot of them see Hegseth rejected, but by the same token, that would heighten the chances that those other three get confirmed.
This is interesting. So you're just saying you have to look at the universe of potential confirmations, and the entire universe ain't going to get through, is your point?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. There are four of them that are quite controversial right now. And they would each need 4 Republicans. I think Hannity will have a tougher time. I think it'll be easier for Republicans to vote against a Democrat. And even though Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat, it's a little different. So I think they'll support her. I just think that you're not going to see a wave of nominations rejected, that clearly.
Finally, I'll just ask you about Ukraine. First, I'll ask you about I think this falls into the category of suck-uppiness that you were talking about, with the congressperson offering up a congressional amendment that would give Trump a 3rd term. And I love the quote associated with it. I'm just doing this from memory. I think you, Michael, pushed this to me originally, the story. Just an outrageous statement like, Donald Trump has proven himself the only chief executive to be able to restore America to its original greatness. And I mean, this is, 2 days into his presidency, he's already proven himself as the only executive in the history of the country to restore it to greatness.
Those are 4 spectacular years, right?
So this is that's just again, boy, I hope the boss sees that I was trying to make this amendment happen for him type thing.
Yeah, look, Trump has alluded to it. There are people in MAGA world who want to see it happen. Lawyers have danced around this with other presidents in the past. It was talked about during Reagan after his second election when he beat Walter Mondale. When he beat Walter Mondale the second time. He beat Carter and then Mondale. So when he beat Mondale, it was talked about after he had won. It's been talked about by Democrats during the Clinton years. People talked about, well, we should probably mess with the 22nd Amendment. First of all, For it to happen, it would require 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate, or it would require 38 states to have it happen, or 34 states to have it happen. It's not going to happen, but that it's being talked about is comical. There are ways that Trump could remain president, right? I mean, Vance could run, and this is within the 22nd. Vance could run with Trump as his vice president. It would be constitutionally challenged. Vance could then resign. I mean, it's a little like what happened in Russia. Vance could then resign, and Trump could take over, because that is not prevented clearly yet by the 22nd. But whether or not you can stand as vice president for a third time would probably be challenged. Anyway,
well, I'll tell you the other way that Trump could get a third term is if he got his militia to attack the Capitol on. There's a whole. You've left out. Plan A. I mean, you're going right to Plan B. So
right, that's a good point. That's a good point. So never mind. So it's clearly going to happen. It will pass, and if it doesn't pass, it'll happen anyway.
Last night, I watched the Australian Open with a sense of amazement.
Is the clock on? 48 seconds? Are we in?
This is 48 seconds, Albert. You can run the clock. The Australian Open was. I wonder if you can. Well, you're our sports person, and you're very, very close to the world of tennis. So maybe go ahead and recap what happened in 48 seconds.
You don't need my closeness to tennis to tell you what a crazy night that was last night, and Novak Djokovic just bowing out after losing a set. The people there, some of them even booing a guy who's won that tournament 10 times, and then Sasha Zverev, who he beat, in one of the most gracious post-match, post-anything press conferences I've ever heard. It was an on-court interview just talking about, hey, don't boo. This guy's been the best thing for the sport. He's an extraordinary athlete. He's played through pain. If he could have played, he would have played, and he might have beaten me. And so
he's won the tournament through injury.
Yeah, through 2 injuries that Zverev pointed out.
Referenced. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an incredible thing to see. I think it'll be Sinner versus Zverev. Zverev looks really good, I gotta say.
Yeah, he does. I would have loved to have seen Alcaraz though against Djokovic. That really
I would have. Well, we did see Alcaraz versus Djokovic.
I mean, I didn't see it. I saw the highlights. Yeah,
you missed it. But also in America, Madison Keys is in there against Aryna Sabalenka. Keys is playing really well. So if you have nothing to do in the middle of the night, join Mark and watch the Australian Open. It's been a lot of fun.
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
Michael, please, I will bring you on in a moment. I'm sorry, Mr. Shure. Find Michael Shure across this great land of ours as a reporter in politics, and I share your high regard for him. So many of you who've reached out and told me how much you love Michael Shure. We love him too, and we enjoy all our time with him. Thanks, Michael. Michael Shure.
Thanks. Have a great weekend.
Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
This is Mark Thompson.
Put that coffee down.
There's always been in this country 30 to 35% idiots.
What?
Right on, everybody. If you haven't yet, and you have it in your game, smash that like button.
Smash
it's a good thing.
with your iron rod.
It's free. You can also subscribe to the show, which does help us also. And it's also free. So
smash it with your iron rod.
Smash that subscription. Yeah. Not a fan of that music, says Cheryl. That's what I love about our crew in the chat. They tell it to you straight. They tell it to you straight. They lay it on you heavy, whether you can take it or not. Thank you for your brilliant political analysis, Michael Shure, says another. Who said that? Underdog. Yeah. Ramona says there's no way Trump gets a third term. I swear I will leave this country, considering it now. Well, Ramona, when the word gets out that you're considering leaving, I'm sure they will not go through with the third term plan. But Never knew he could run as VP to J.D. Vance's presidential run. Then J.D. can relinquish to Trump, says Deborah B. I didn't know that, existed until there started being all this talk of ways in which he could
wild idea, but it just might work.
Super sticker from Wes for a $5.
Big shout out.
I love the 5 note. Candace Worthman with a $20 $19.99 super sticker.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Candace. We're a crowdfunded show, so you'll pardon occasionally. I'll step out and try to acknowledge those in the crowd who fund us. Dennis Fahey, the Powell Memorandum Incarnate, says, gives us a $20 super chat. Yeah, that's the Colin Powell memorandum. I guess that's what you mean when you say the Powell memorandum. I don't know what that was in relation to. I'm sorry to say, meaning I don't know what story you're talking about, but obviously there's the, you need to be careful about foreign intervention. You have to make sure you have public support was a big part of the Powell memorandum. And of course, if you break it, you buy it. Remember that his warning on involvement in Iraq. Mila says frack gas has been euphemistically labeled natural gas as a way of tricking people into accepting this climate destroyer. Mila, you are so right. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I made that point before. It is utterly wrong to call natural gas clean energy, which is what Trump calls it. It's no wonder that he doesn't really know. He's a vacuous, one-dimensional guy on any number of things. Natural, yeah, it came from the earth. So did a lot of stuff. So did everything, pretty much, right? There are carcinogenic additives to your food that are natural. They came from they use ingredients that were derived from earthly compounds, if you want to think of it that way. DE, a.k.a. Darren, with a $5 super chat. You know that you can use your DNS domain to, quote, verify the Blue Sky account, i.e. the MTS, the MarkThompsonShow.com. I did not know that. Albert, do you follow what Dr. E, a.k.a. Darren, is saying?
It all seems to make sense. It looks like it makes sense. We just got to figure it out.
Well, are you going to help with figuring it out, or I'm not going to see you till Wednesday of next week after this? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm glad you got to that conclusion without me telling you.
I don't know.
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
Dr. E, maybe you can drop me a line. Maybe you can help us. It takes the audience to lift this show up. You can see the support staff isn't quite as committed. So I'm asking you, reach out to us at themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com, and maybe you can help us with that footprint. Almost time for an MTS meetup, says Phineas. That is true. We need to get that organized. themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. If you're interested in a meetup, remind me, and we'll get one going. Yeah, I'd love to get one going. Thank you, Phineas. By the way, put that Phineas, what is the Phineas, is that Ray Walston from My Favorite Martian? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Is that who that is, Michael Snyder? Doesn't that look like Ray Walston?
I believe so.
Yeah, I believe that.
Uncle Martin.
Uncle Martin, that's right, from My Favorite Martian. Yeah, Google it, exactly. Marilyn, thank you for the super sticker for $5. Appreciate it. Guys, we are crowdfunded, and if you're not yet a part of this community, Patreon and PayPal is how you do it. You can find links under this video, and you can also go to themarkthompsonshow.com, click the Patreon or PayPal links to be part of our community, this community that supports this show.
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
Michael, we'll get to you. Jeez, you're so impatient today. Kim, you'll do news?
I don't think we have time.
I was just trying to see what her reaction would be.
What is wrong with you?
I was just trying to see what that reaction would be. I knew we didn't have time.
I wrote news. News is great. It was a fantastic newscast that you will never hear.
How dare you?
Yeah, well.
Oh.
But we've got Michael Snyder.
Why can't I keep the show on till 1:30?
You can actually
on the West Coast.
That's a
on the West Coast it'll be 1:30. 4:30 on the East Coast.
Sure,
yeah.
Let's do it.
Are you up for that or not?
Yeah, totally.
Can you stay or not? Feel like James Brown. Isn't that what they did with James Brown? He would leave the stage.
Just
James
put the
Brown.
cloak on me.
What would happen?
And I'll throw the cloak off and come back. They're trying to walk James Brown off
Tell
at the end
younger
of the set.
boy. Google it, Albert. Google. Oh, Albert's gone.
They're
Albert had to
trying to walk James
I'm
off
looking at
the stage at the end of the set, and every time he gets a few feet closer to the back of the stage, he throws off the cloak they've draped around his shoulders and runs back to the microphone.
It's great. I mean, he did it at every show where he's beginning to walk off.
You know, honestly, my first little chunk is very news oriented, but Kim is the mistress of the daily.
Well, I've lost
delivery.
the producer of the show. Albert has actually left, so I don't even know. I mean, like you get these.
He's not left.
Oh, I thought I didn't see him in the green room. I don't know what happened.
No, I had to retitle. I do this little thing, but yes.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's right. Albert has to, because when Michael, the Culture Blaster, comes on, I'm so sorry.
I do
So
have my
Albert,
other gig pretty early today, so not too late, but we can run
so
a little late.
so we do have a little wiggle room, but Kim, sadly, do you want to give us a couple of headlines?
Sure, I'll give you a couple of headlines.
Kim with headlines, and then the Great Culture Blasters. So.
A little quickie just for you on the Mark Thompson Show. I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore.
Yeah.
President Trump taking his first trip of the second term today. First, he stopped in North Carolina. That's where Tropical Storm Helene caused billions in damage last September. And while there, Trump said he would sign an executive order to either fundamentally change or flat out get rid of FEMA. He heads to California to review the damage from the recent Los Angeles area wildfires later today. Billions of dollars are headed to Southern California to help those devastated by those wildfires. Today, Governor Gavin Newsom signed a relief package that earmarks $2.5 billion in wildfire aid. Thank goodness. The legislation was previously approved by state lawmakers with bipartisan support. With rain in the forecast for Los Angeles this weekend, officials are prepping for possible mudslides and flooding from recent burn scars. There's a Los Angeles-based real estate agent now facing charges for allegedly price gouging after the deadly Eaton fire. Mike Kobiesi is accused of jacking up the price of a rental home for a couple who lost their home in the Eaton fire.
Wow, that's so brutal. So brutal. That's just that is so wrong. Oh.
ICE says its agents may now question U.S. citizens during migrant sweeps in several major cities. ICE says it arrested hundreds of illegal migrants, with the border czar Tom Homan warning there could be collateral arrests. The Department of Homeland Security took to social media saying the American people are already seeing the results as the border encounters are sharply declining. A federal judge now blocking Trump's executive order that would end unconditional birthright citizenship. He signed the order Monday that would limit birthright citizenship to children who have at least one parent that is either a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. At least 5 different lawsuits have been filed over this executive order. A Seattle U.S. district judge called the executive order blatantly unconstitutional. As mentioned earlier, the Senate is expected to vote tonight on whether or not to confirm Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. They voted largely along party lines today to advance Hegseth's nomination to the floor. The final vote was 51-49. President Trump unveiling another executive order today, this one calling for the declassification of records related to high-level assassinations, namely those of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Trump said too many people have been waiting for decades for this information, and he said everything will be revealed.
You know, I mean, again, this is the kind of thing, and it's a high-profile move that he makes that people go, yeah, it's about time. You know, and it again, these are things that he can take a victory lap on with most Americans. You know, I feel sadly it's wrapped in some of the most reprehensible executive orders in the history of the country. But, you know.
The teenager who shot and killed a Nashville high school student reportedly live streamed part of that crime. That's according to Kick, the streaming platform that the shooter used. The company says the account that posted the video was quickly banned, and then the company removed it. And lastly, the northern lights may be visible in parts of the northern U.S., particularly tonight And early tomorrow morning, a coronal mass ejection from the sun earlier this week is now pushing Aurora Borealis further south than usual. Overnight viewing could be possible in places like Iowa, New York, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So we'll see some cool pictures online, I'm sure.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
We want to take an Aurora Borealis trip this coming year. This this winter. Winter is typically, of course, the best time to see it. It's extraordinary potentially, but the problem is winter months can oftentimes be marked by what? Bad weather, and then you can't really see much. So if you have a limited window, it can be a little difficult, but man, I really want to see it. It's a remarkable phenomenon.
This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore, home of the Why Are You Yelling Red? And the Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio?
Yeah.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah.
Some good wine, and it's from Livermore. And Rich and Nancy, they're the nicest people. They have a saying. They say, give us 30 minutes and we'll be friends for life. And it is true, because everyone that we have sent there comes back saying, oh my gosh, these people are amazing. Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore, please check it out.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, they do. They get the three oh my gods.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Yeah, that's the
Either
white.
Say in person or email or call Rich, and you use the phrase that pays, Mark Thompson.
The phrase that pays, everybody, smash it with your iron rod. Say the phrase
Smash
that
it
pays,
with
and you
your iron rod. Yep.
You get 10% off.
925-699-4576.
But I think
or
if you
Rich,
buy a case of wine there, they give you way more than 10% off.
they
You can get
do
20%
give you
off.
Yeah, well, that was what was happening over the holidays, and I'm assuming that it's still going on. But check in with Rich at Tenuta Vineyards to find out more. Make sure you use the phrase that pays.
The phrase that pays is smash with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod.
And you can email Rich as well, rich@tenutavineyard.com.
We went by there, and I got a couple of cases of wine, Michael. I pay retail like everybody else, and I was proud to support the people at Tenuta. I love it there. Yeah. But you don't have to ever go there. They have a great she is really a breakthrough person when it comes to the way in which she has created a vineyard and how the wine is created as well. I mean, she's amazing. The science and technology is quite impressive there. That's one of the things I picked up while visiting. So,
people still believe in science. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
How dare you, Michael? How dare you? We may not get to you for another 40 or 45 minutes.
You know what?
Settle in there.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Thank you.
Wrapping
Thank you,
it up.
Albert.
I'm
Albert
Kim
gets it.
McAllister. This is the Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I don't know what your problem is, Schneider. You're just, it's like you come here with the idea that we're going to put you right on, and we can't put you right on all the time. There are a number of other things going on.
On top of that, there is no Culture Blaster Chardonnay at Tenuta Vineyards.
No, and at this rate, there will not be. So you better straighten up. That's all I'm trying to say to you. All right. All right, smash the like button.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Thank you. All right. He comes and goes. On a rainbow. How about it for Michael Schneider? He's the Culture Blaster. Yeah.
Hey, it is kind of a late hour to be starting, but I still want to say hello to Mark and to Kim and to Albert, Tony, wherever he is, and our fabulous MTS audience. The worst case scenario is upon us, though, Mark, as the new administration flexes its demented control over the country and throws norms like common sense, equal rights, and compassion out the window. I mean, as you said earlier, medical research is off the board. I mean, I guess the Orange Ogre is going to rely on the White House witch doctor for whatever ails him.
Yeah.
On the positive side, Thomas Dolby, you won't have to worry about being blinded with science.
I love it.
As for the bird flu, I mean, the POTUS won't do anything about it. Even if an avian celebrity is hospitalized, like Donald Duck or Woody Woodpecker, of course, Donald and Woody are Hollywood elites, so no help would be forthcoming there. Kind of like, California and federal disaster relief.
Yeah.
I'm trying to hold down the fort and not flip the heck out, but here we go. And
all right.
We should get down to business and shock of shocks.
I'm loving it.
Each of the 4 movies I'm covering today clocks in at under 2 hours.
That's extraordinary in itself.
Yeah, but that's January for you. The movie industry's version of an after Christmas clearance sale. It's stuff that's been sitting on the shelf.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Automatically, are most of these things not going to weigh in as heavyweights?
It's rare. Foreign films and some indie stuff comes out that will surprise you, but studios generally kind of release what's been on the back burner or things they don't think are going to do all that well. And so with that in mind, let's kick off with Flight Risk. It is the quintessential January movie, a relatively modest thriller with a couple of marginal movie industry figures, now marginal, who have checkered track records as the star and the director here. That star would be the charmless lunk Mark Wahlberg as a crazed contract killer who knows how to fly a prop engine plane, which helps in the unspooling of his plan here. And the director would be noted Christo-fascist anti-Semite Mel Gibson. Am I allowed to call him that, by the way?
Sure, call him whatever you want.
He admittedly used to be a pretty good action hero and has directed some decent movies in his day. He has, I thought even Hacksaw Ridge, his recent war movie, was pretty damn good.
Yeah, you're not diverted creatively from his work because of his politics.
No.
That's one of the things. You're a purist that way.
Right. I will condemn him as a human being, but as an artist, I'll pay attention to what he's doing. It's
exactly.
like, with Clint Eastwood, I have the same attitude.
Oh.
Clint may be a Republican lunatic, but...
Well, I think they're different categories.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
So this also features a couple actors I like who made their names on two very different TV franchises. Michelle Dockery, who was the oh-so-proper and steely Lady Mary of Downton Abbey, here is playing American as a disgraced federal agent who's trying to get her mojo back by transporting a nerdy criminal accountant turned witness for the prosecution of his corrupt boss. And Topher Grace, Eric Foreman of That 70s Show, here plays the snitching accountant that Wahlberg's hitman is hired to hit. So the bulk of Flight Risk is set in the plane, which is meant to convey the Fed and the snitch from a remote spot in Alaska to Anchorage, where he will be taken into custody, and one would assume better protection. And of course, the pilot and passengers are jockeying for control of the plane. This trio of misfits is, in flux up there. So it's almost what TV people call a bottle episode, with most of the action going down in an enclosed space, the cockpit. And that means hand-to-hand combat, careening dives into snow-covered peaks and snow, that's the sort of thing you're looking at action-wise. So the premise had promise, but Jared Rosenberg's script leans on stupid decisions made by all of the characters with some plot holes that are big enough to fly a jumbo jet through, let alone a single-engine prop plane.
I got it.
The cast members play it all pretty broad, especially Wahlberg, who is in full ham mode with a bogus Southern accent and, are you ready? Mad villain cackling. He does some mad villain cackling. So with all the cockpit close-ups, it's a bit much, Gibson's uneven direction doesn't help, although the fights are pretty intense. He handles that well. By the way, Wahlberg's killer character is supposed to be bald, but the actor's clumsily shaved head has like 5 o'clock shadow, and it shows that the movie's budget didn't include enough to hire, top-notch makeup people who know about beard cover, or in this case, Wahlberg's scalp beard. On the positive side, the bumpy rides and in-transit punch-ups seem ideal for showings in 4DX theaters, which, as you may recall from my experience a few months ago at a screening of Red One, those are like Disney e-ticket rides with rocking and rolling seats, timed and directed air and mist blasts, and who knows.
That's where you watch this?
No, I didn't. I'm assuming that would make the experience...
Oh, better, I see. More immersive.
I would think so. Is it bad? Yeah, not for a January movie. Boy, again, it's the Michael Snyder quote, pull quote, not terrible. Michael Snyder, the Mark Thompson show.
Yeah.
I am damning it with faint praise. I watched it. I was mildly entertained. I will forget it as we end this segment. It is in theaters.
I've already forgotten it. What's next?
Okay, a good movie. Are you ready? Shocker of shockers, a January movie that's good. Presence is supernatural in subject, sharp in script, quietly thrilling, creepy in a kind of low-key spectral way, and directed with a sure and creative hand by Steven Soderbergh,
Oh.
the guy who did Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Out of Sight, which is a favorite of mine, The Limey, Erin Brockovich, Traffic, Ocean's 11. This guy even did Magic Mike, but I won't hold that against him. So, Presence is the latest from the filmmaker, and it examines the trials faced by a family of 4 after they move into a house that, by all indications, is haunted. This works both as an exercise in subtle horror and, due to a storytelling technique that is employed, as an art house offering from Soderbergh. The movie is shot in a way that makes its execution even more effective, and I kind of don't want to say the how and the why, and I don't mean execution as in someone is executed. Then again, maybe I do. In any case, it's one of those elevated horror movies that it trades in dread. Lucy Liu and Chris Sullivan play the mother and the father of the family, who are not in the best place, so to speak. Lucas Papelius and Kalina Lang play the brother and sister, who have a somewhat combative relationship, which is exacerbated by one of the brother's friends having sexual designs on the sister. And in addition to the renowned Soderbergh in the director's chair for Presence, and make no mistake, he is a presence, the script here was written by another Hollywood veteran, David Koepp, who is hit and miss in his output. I mean, he co-wrote the screenplays for Jurassic Park and Death Becomes Her and Mission Impossible. He wrote the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Panic Room, Carlito's Way, but he also wrote a terrible Johnny Depp movie entitled Mordecai, and co-wrote the crummy 2017 version of The Mummy with Tom Cruise. So this
I don't know. You still, that's like he's 5 and 2 or something, right?
Yeah, well, wait. He also wrote the last 2 Indiana Jones movies. The first one of the last...
Yeah, they weren't horrible.
No, the second one. But I'm telling you, he's not perfect.
All right.
This time he hits in very spare and tense fashion instead of missing, family tension plus ghostly spirits. Reacting to family tension equals a very successful excursion into paranormal paranoia. I really liked Presence. It's in theaters. It'll play well at home, with the lights down. But I thought it was good.
How scary is it on the scary scale, 10 scale? 10 being you need to be hospitalized afterward.
No, there's no gore involved. It's about a 6 or 7.
Not gore. I'm just talking about scary.
6-ish.
Okay, 6-ish. All right. Go ahead.
Okay.
That's Presence, the Steven Soderbergh film.
A pair of committed actors, one being the respected Rhys Ifans and the other being relative newcomer Phoebe Dynevor of Bridgerton, and location shooting in Cairo, New Delhi, and Seoul gives some heft to Inheritance, which is an espionage thriller that is pretty much one long quest starting in New York City and rolling out to those aforementioned exotic ports of call. Dynevor plays Maya, a young woman who has just finished many months attending to her dying mother in a New York City apartment. The funeral happens, and lo and behold, out of nowhere, Dad shows up. He's been quite the absentee, and with no focus to her life, she takes up her estranged father's offer of well-paid work, assisting him in his high-end international real estate business starting in Cairo. So they're flying to Cairo. So it starts out as a father-daughter reconnection, but it turns sinister when Maya realizes that Dad, played by Ifans, was in the spy game and is still in it for what he suggests is one last mission. Yeah, we've heard that before. But as a result, Maya finds herself embroiled in a conflict between various parties vying for a highly valuable cache of classified information, which is sort of the MacGuffin of the movie. Director and co-screenwriter Neil Berger did The Illusionist and Limitless, and not to his credit, the Divergent franchise. He directed the first of the films and I think produced sequels, and he tries something somewhat experimental here, which might be considered gimmicky. The entire movie was shot on an iPhone.
Oh.
And to be honest, it looks pretty good in a gritty cinema verite way. And
until you get a call. Then when you get a call, it takes you out of the movie.
Right, in the middle of the most exciting
I saw a text from their sound editor.
It's a robocall. It's asking for money. The entire movie is shot on an iPhone. So I mentioned the art house vibe of Presence, and the same is on tap here. And that's kind of couched in the cinematography via a handheld phone. I found it okay. Ultimately, I was a little underwhelmed, but I traveled along with Dynavor's Maya on her journey, and I don't regret taking the trip. let's just say that Inheritance is in select theaters. It'll probably play well at home when it gets distributed that way as well. We'll wrap up the movie section of today's little blast with The Colors Within. I will just say in passing, it is a lovely and modest anime movie about high school kids. A girl named Tatsuko is in a high school that's sort of run by nuns in Japan, and she has this kind of strange ability to see the colors of other people. She looks at people and their auras kind of emanate out at her, and she becomes kind of fixated on a girl who has left the school. She's decided to move on and get a job at a bookstore, and she tracks the girl down, and it turns out that they both have music in common, and they decide to form a band with this guy who's also a patron at the bookstore. And it's about their growing together as friends, and they're developing music, and it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it was lovely. And they formed this little band, and they practice at this church on a remote island. It's just beautifully animated and sensitively done. And, I thought it was a beautiful piece of animation, and maybe not to everyone's taste. And, there aren't explosions, and there aren't, robots, and there are, no talking animals, at least
Is
not
it in
here.
English?
I believe you can see it in English. There are versions of it, but I watched it in the original Japanese with English subtitles. It is available in limited theaters right now. Again, the title of it is The Colors Within, and I thought this particular bunch of colors is quite lovely.
Very good. Well, is there anything else you want to mention, Culture Blaster?
Quickly,
Because,
we don't have the time to go into any great depth, but Severance Season 2 is back with the gang getting back together at Lumen, a company that does something, but I don't know what. It's very much theater of the absurd in terms of what these people are employed doing. But the key, of course, is they separated their work lives from their personal lives to the point where the two don't ever interact. But
they're not aware of it, are they? Or
well,
they become more aware of it.
One of the hooks is that the main character has become increasingly aware of what's going on, and he's trying to kind of meld his two personas together, perhaps. I want to spotlight one TV show that I caught up with called High Potential. It's on ABC and also on Hulu, and it was based on a French series called High Potential Intellectual, and adapted by Drew Goddard, who was a mainstay of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. And it stars, of all people, Caitlin Olsen of the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia cast.
Oh, yeah.
And she plays a young woman who, well, not that young, she's in her 40s. She's a cleaning woman for the Los Angeles Police Department, and she has a high IQ and a compulsive need to analyze things, and it leads to her helping to solve a crime for the detectives at the police station
that could be
where
fun.
she works. And this results in her getting a gig with the cops as a consultant, to the chagrin of the old school detective she partners with. She's prone to short skirts and tight tops and sexy boots, but she's also a caring mother of 3 whose first husband disappeared, and the second mate is still in her life as the father of her youngest kids.
Just like the rest of us, Michael, we're all conflicts. We're all a mix of all things, aren't we?
But this is very much like Monk or Poker Face. It's a crime of the week show.
Yes, the show is funny, says shadow producer Calvin Wong.
It's a crime of the week procedural, and with an idiosyncratic crime solver at the heart. You know what?
I adore High Potential, says Karen Combs.
Considering her mental quirks and her somewhat slutty wardrobe, she's like hot Monk, this character. Like if Monk was a hot MILF, Anyway.
Chagrin is a ding word,
I
says Tom.
have enjoyed
Okay.
High Potential, and I'm going to continue watching it. And it was just renewed for a second season.
Wow, I've got to check it out.
That's all we have time for.
Well, Tom also says exacerbated is a ding word, which is true. And there was, it's interesting, I left this out. I was wanting to see if Tom got it. Aforementioned, it was a word that was used, and aforementioned it may be the head of the ding parade. So very well done. Also, it's pointed out by Cousin Erie that Mark would rather hear the sound of his own voice than watch Fire Walk with Me.
Now we've gotten into a little Lynchian moratorium or something.
I don't know. But I'm grateful for, once again, the way in which you shed light in the show business darkness. And you know what makes it dark? So much material, so much inventory. I can't tell what I should be watching. The Diplomat Season 1, Diplomat Season 2, The Night Agent. Somebody mentioned Night Agent.
Right, I was going to talk about The Night Agent.
The Night Agent Season 2 was mentioned here.
It just dropped yesterday or today, and I just didn't have time to see it. We'll talk about it in the near future. But I do want to say before we head out, I was checking out the Best Picture nominations for the Oscar, and 5 of them are on my top 10 for 2024, which dropped at the Voice of San Francisco a few weeks back. And I was, of course, I chose some of the best films of the year.
Yeah, you
plus,
do.
Plus,
yes.
A movie I totally recommend that if you haven't seen it, you and Courtney have to watch Flow, the great animated film that should win
right. Yes.
Best Animated Picture of the Year. Mm-hmm. And I had a few outliers in my list, but generally speaking, well done, Academy.
Thank you for the reviews, says Deborah B. Finally, a little love for Michael Snyder.
Please.
Yes.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, but it is time to say good day. You can find him at thevoicesf.org, thevoicesf.org. If you like him speaking, you'll love him writing. He's a great writer. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Michael Snyder.
Bye, everybody, and go Eagles. Yeah, you heard it.
That's right.
My boyhood team.
He's a Philly boy. He adopted the Niners as his favorite team.
Yes.
But he is a Philly boy. So there you go. Thank you.
Which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Okay.
Who's Mark Thompson?
The Mark Thompson Show.
I know you want us to stay, but we must go. Wouldn't it be great if Kim could stay somehow? If you could hear more of Kim. I know that's what you're thinking. You think it from the beginning. I don't blame you. I feel the same thing. Let Kim speak more. I will offer you a whole hour where it'll just be Kim speaking. It's called the After Party Live. Yeah, I know. Pretty exciting. She's building a following, and you
We'll do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live.
You should be part of that following. Just go over there on the After Party Live channel. They're on YouTube. We'll be back Monday. We have some great guests next week as well. And, we may have a new leader of the Department of Defense by then, as Pete Hegseth looks like he's
There's never
going to
been
get
anything
through.
like this.
No. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, everyone. We are out of time.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Appreciate all your love and support. Until next time.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Out of time. Bye.